What would you do with the money if you won the lottery? Story 1. I'd buy a used bookstore, preferably one that people rarely shop at. I would go to work at it every day. No one would know I had money, but I would be happy sipping coffee and tea and reading all day. I would get a little orange cat to live in my bookstore and keep me company. It would have crazy wooden shelves that are overloaded with books and make weird little passageways and be very confusing and have odd decorations in random places. At the end of the labyrinth, there would be a couple of ratty, super comfy chairs with doilies on the arms and a fireplace for comfortable reading. And I would wear squashy, comfortable knit sweaters and slippers every day at work and look eccentric and strange. Story 2. TBH. I would create a life that is the envy of everyone around me. I would then live in isolation in my ivory tower while people who used to know me create false narratives behind my back. I would eventually succumb to loneliness and fall in love with people who only want the money. I would eventually ruin my relationships and dabble in drug abuse. I would then drive by a poor but happy family having a barbecue, which results in a crystallizing moment. The realization that everything I ever really wanted was there the whole time, and I was too blinded by greed to see it. Story 3. Set up my family. College funds for the kids, paid off houses, and new cars for the adults. I'd go on a spending spree on dumb stuff for myself and my fiancé, then put the rest away to earn interest and live on an annuity. Start a business that will keep me busy and doesn't have to financially succeed. Story 4. I heard a compelling argument for why you should give it to charity. Or more specifically, you give it to charity, a private foundation in your own name, which you are in charge of, and then you start a new career as a philanthropist. You pay yourself a nice salary for managing the money and deciding what to donate to. It's a way to get something that you can't straightforwardly buy with money, which is social standing. You'll have a positive reputation as the guy who gave his lottery winnings to charity rather than blowing it on gaudy shit. You won't have as many moochers trying to get it, because everyone knows that it's not your money anymore. Famous celebrities with pet projects will suddenly all want to befriend you. You can go to the Met Gala and Sydney Sweeney will laugh at your jokes, because she wants you to donate to her cause of helping education of girls in developing countries. Story 5. It would depend on how much. I'd pay off my mortgage and debt, at the very least. If it were a significant amount of money, there's an abandoned Kmart in my neighborhood that I think would make a great one-stop center for our homeless population. Story 6. Hire a lawyer and financial advisor, so my dad. Tell no one but my spouse and obviously my father. Invest as much as possible to live off the passive income of interest, because I do not need fancy things 4. College fund for my stepson and retirement accounts 5. Any and all medical procedures my spouse and I can't afford 6. Disappear off the face of the earth in the locale of my choice for 3 months with my husband 7. Spend my time doing art and giving back 8. Pretend I don't have it. Story 7 depends how much. A few million is already halved by taxes. In which case a smart investment strategy and a down payment on a house plus buying close family and friends a solid vacation. Anything in the 30-plus after-tax ballpark would probably involve disappearing for a bit. Everyone I love gets $1 million house with legal safeguards absolving me from responsibility. My wife and I would move to Southern Europe, build a fantastic finca and breed golden retrievers and corgis. That and travel. Story 8. Not work. I own my home and car, so I'd just maybe get a hot tub and do exactly what I'm doing now and not work. I might pay for some of my subscription services again, like HBO, Go, and Netflix instead of pirating them. Now I just have Hulu, Paramount, and Disney. Give myself an allowance for video games and stay at home. Story 9. The first day I see those millions in my account, I would honestly just relax and do nothing. If I'm working that day, I would call off. I would use that day to self-reflect. I would thinking about the endless possibilities and how much my life is going to change, or the first place I'm going on vacation and what I'm going to do first on my bucket list. But the biggest thing I'll be thinking about is how I won't have to worry about money anymore, and also I can finally leave my job. No more wondering, will I have enough money to pay for bills, or will I have enough to take care of my child? No more working 6 days and always physically and mentally tired of my job. Just relax, lol. Story 10. Invest a bunch. Hire a financial professional to set everything up and work with me to determine what my monthly income is. Live off investment interest. Donate to some charities and scholarships I care deeply about. Set up some good accounts for my kids to cover things like school, medical, house down payment, entrepreneurship, etc. Basically try to find ways to support them and incentivize creativity, learning, and hard work without just handing out cash. Grocery shop without fretting about my budget. Buy a 2 or 3 pieces of land, each with a modest but nice house. One is my home, the others are in areas I love to vacation to, spend long weekends, summers, etc., traveling to my favorite areas. When I am not spending time at my vacation property, I'll let friends and family stay there for their vacations. I'd like to keep a job of some kind. I'm an engineer by trade, so possibly a remote position as a parts designer draftsman. I'd need to consider this further. Try to keep my kids as well-rounded as possible. I expect this would be the most difficult aspect. Very tough to judge if I am succeeding or not. Story 11. Go around annoying governments. I'd buy a fleet of vans and provide abortion medication free of charge in Bible Belt states in America, provide hormone blocker medications across the UK, and provide porno mags for any country with porn bans in place. Same applies to any other civil liberty or health issue that governments seek to ban. I'd be there with my fleet of vans undermining them. Story 12. Pay off my parents, siblings, and baby mama's homes and debt. Create an investment fund for each niece and nephew and my son. Only care about having enough left to have an investment fund that pays me enough each year to live pretty much the way I do now, worry-free. Any extra money would go to causes I really care about to help people. Story 13. Hire a lawyer, tax accountant, and wealth advisor. Keep them on retainer. Pay all taxes. Deductions where I can for charitable contributions to my local Pride Center and the group that helped me growing up. Purchase a modest house, a new EV or plug-in hybrid, and a few sundry big purchases. Pay off any remaining debts. Ensure my immediate family, spouse's immediate family, and a select few others have homes, reliable cars, and other necessities. For example, education trust for kids. Pay off all of their debts, especially medical debts. Place 75% of what remains in interest-bearing investment accounts. Live off this. Begin a program to provide solar systems to homes being refinished by charitable groups. Use my spare income to buy and forgive debts of others. Observe the IRS yearly gift limit on any gifts after that. Make those gifts into interest-free loans for people I don't like but feel obligated to help. Live modestly, freely, and quietly if I can. Story 14. Assuming it was a large enough lottery to do so, I'd immediately start living like John Bentinck, the 5th Duke of Portland. I would build miles of tunnels under my sprawling estate so I could get around unseen. I would forbid my servants from seeing or talking to me. I would only be reachable by mail and hire somebody whose entire job is to keep people away. I would fund lavish construction projects on my property for amenities I would never even use. Somebody would cook me roast chicken every single day. Story 15, I'd be a prankster. Meet a random person at the park and give them a few $1,000s with some crazy story about a time-traveling person who said, "You'll know what to do with this." Leave my final day at work by having a black-suited FBI-looking type show up in a black van and hustle me away, shouting, "National security, sir, we have to go." But enough shares in my company to get a seat on the board. Show up randomly in period clothing and pay a street vendor with vintage gold coins. Bury a sword in the middle of nowhere. A year later, randomly visit the location on the pretense of a camping trip. Dig because something is calling me. Story 16. Sort my family out financially. Invest in properties for my kids when they're older. Put money away for their kids if they have any. Random acts of kindness like paying for someone's fuel or food shopping. I love cars, so they're a definite. Buy houses to rent out, but I'd keep the rent low so families could have a good size house but be able to save to buy a home of their own. For example, a 3-bed house near me is £1,400 a month upwards. I'd let my houses out for £800. Rental income would be £8,000 a month, which is decent, and that would be invested into stocks, etc. Story 17. Put 50% in a family trust with fixed salary payouts and 50% in a charitable foundation. Even a 1% payout of $50 million is $5 million per year. For every asset bought, plan to pay 1 to 2% taxes in perpetuity. This is how most lottery winners go bankrupt. Keeping the base in a family trust and taking no loans in excess of your annual budget keeps this from happening. If family comes knocking, it's, "Sorry dude, my fund manager has it all. I locked it up." If someone wants to off you, too bad. They still get nothing. The trust rules can be written tightly so that no one can ever inherit a windfall amount. Make this known. Yeah, it's all in trust. When I die, it goes to charity. This doesn't have to be true. People just have to believe it is true. The $5 million is fun money. Pay for an extended family vacation. Get aging parents situated with debt-free living. anonymously pay off their house or medical bills, buy land and vacation homes in your favorite travel destinations. You can write the rules of the trust to have specific requirements, including some that kick in if conditions are met. Kid found guilty of drug possession? Your kid's share of the family trust is now limited to paying for rehab. There's now an employment or full-time education requirement, and anything spent by the trust on assets, like a house, belongs to trust as co-owner and can't be sold without dual sign-off until a certain number of years pass. Your charitable foundation gives you purpose. You can fund life-saving work around the world, travel to see your impacts, hire family and offer flexible schedules, and attend museum galas, celebrity fundraisers, and influence elected leaders to care about the common good, counterbalance special interests, maybe even fund an effective campaign to overturn Citizens United and reform campaign finance. Story 18. I would invest and protect the money as soon as I got it. I'd also get the best attorney I could find to put them on retainer. After that, I'd spoil my closest family members and maybe one or two friends. I would be lying if I said I wouldn't spoil myself just a little bit as well. But no matter how much money I had, I wouldn't flaunt it or brag. I'd have a really nice property, some nice vehicles, and I would travel a lot. But you wouldn't see me in a 12-bedroom house, and I wouldn't own a yacht. After taking care of myself and my family, I'd make a hobby out of finding ways to help others and improve the community I live in. Story 19 depends on the amount. Ideally, I'd love to win enough to buy a small waterfront bungalow with a large yard in a town on a water source, lake, or river, with enough left over to give my children enough money to at least have enough for a large down payment to buy their own homes also. I make enough money on my pensions that I could afford to live and cover the cost of taxes, utilities, etc. If it was a huge win, I'd make sure all of my family members were taken care of, along with giving some very generous donations to causes that I believe in. Story 20 depends on how much money the lottery pays out, but I would start by paying off all debt for myself and my family. Buy myself a house, RV and truck, house and car for all family members that need it. Travel to all the places I've wanted to visit. Retire. Most importantly, live a happy and stress-free life. Story 21. It depends on the size of the winnings. Ideally, pay off our debt. Invest in small businesses. Invest in general, fund our favorite animal shelter for 20 years. Have a pack of accountants, financial advisors, and at least one lawyer on retainer plan for where the money goes after we die. Hire a cat nanny. Travel like death is chasing us, maybe starting a few bed and breakfast places as we go, indulge in all of my hobbies. Story 22. Probably still live like I'm making $18/HR like I do now, even though my pay rate has more than doubled. Just have a nicer car, and maybe a house. I'd have no idea what to do with that money. I'd give some to family, but I have no desire to start a business. I may donate some, but honestly, it's probably sit in some bank account somewhere building interest. Only thing I can think of. I have always wanted to build or open a place that rents repair bays for cars and trucks, have tools to borrow out, maybe have some old crusty mechanics that sit around and drink beer to be able to help out those that need it. Story 23. Hire a lawyer and a good accounting firm that handles these things for you. Then make sure I had plenty to invest in house rentals, ECT. Build my own dream home that I helped design on my dream property somewhere. Pay off any debts. Hire a personal trainer and chef. Teach myself a few languages and skills, maybe hunt through college for a few degrees in something that makes sense. Find mentor, learn from them. Once I'm comfortable with knowing I've built a foundation that can support itself and my future without relying on the lottery money, I would also take the time to travel the world and help pay for some close people in my life to come with me some if they wanted. Figure out how to use that money to help build affordable homes for people in the U.S. again, donate to the proper charities and/or start my own. Growing up in a broken home from nothing, I really would like to find a way I'm passionate about to help other people. Story 24. I'd set it up so I could live off of it without ever having to work for someone. Then start building my life up around that. I like to draw, so I'd probably set up a nice drawing station and just work on creating like a comic, tattoo ideas, coloring books, etc. I'd probably play more video games and maybe try and get into streaming. I'd probably build some buildings that I could then rent out the space to further build that passive income. I'd travel and invite friends, family to travel and pay for most of their expenses. All kinds of things, man. I honestly wish I did win the lotto right now, as I've been going through a bit of an existential crisis. But I've been getting better. I guess LOL, just not really liking the whole needing to make money to live right now. Story 25. I've thought about this probably too much. It all really depends on the amount I win. $5 million? Yeah, probably tell no one, pay off debt, buy a dream property to retire in, and invest the rest, live modestly and maybe take my family on some trips, etc. If it was a huge jackpot like $50, 70 million. Finding a way to collect the money through a trust or some way that there's some sort of anonymity would be key, lol. That amount of money is so obscene. I'd be comfortable giving away half. I'm Canadian and our lottery winnings aren't taxed. I would sit down with accountants and lawyers and figure out amounts to give immediate family and a few friends. Most of the fantasy for me isn't winning. It's the thought of sitting down with unsuspecting family friends and sliding a check across the table for a few $1,000,000 and seeing them realize their lives are about to change. I don't know. It seems like winning the lottery kind of puts a target on your back. It's both a dream and a curse. I'd hope family and friends wouldn't turn on me, but who knows? Story 26. It depends on how much I win, of course. Overall, it wouldn't matter much as only the percent would change. Obviously, this is idealistic. Things are bound to change, but I would try to stick to what I said below. But overall, assuming I won it big, at $100 million. After taxes, 30% would go into a high-yield savings account, 20% would go into investments, 20% would go to friends and family, and 20% would be rolled into charities, helping strangers, etc., and 10% would be for spending immediately. Although I don't see myself blowing 10% on anything too ridiculous. Just a solid gold suit covered in diamonds. After everything is said and done, I would have a decent house in a nice area, and I would pursue whatever I wanted. If I won more or less than $100 million, then the percentages would change. The more I won, the lower percent I would keep for myself because I would already be set for life. Story 27. First of all, I would tell absolutely no one other than my father. Mother's gone. My father was a doctor, so he doesn't need the money. But I would buy a gift, probably a car, to simply express my appreciation for him. If he ended up having trouble in retirement or health, I would pay whatever was needed. I would invest the vast majority of my winnings. Stocks, bonds, ETFs, mutual funds, REITs, crypto, money market accounts, literally every investment product I know. Most of my life would be investing. I would ensure that every year I was generating millions of dollars in interest, which if you won a big jackpot, wouldn't be hard to do. I would then start a charity or a business. The charity would be focused on addiction and recovery, and the business would be some type of tech company. I would spend a lot of time going out trying to meet people in the field and let them know I was a potential investor, but I would want to be a part of the company. I would not tell any of my friends and definitely not any strangers, but I would be very generous with my money without making it obvious I was very wealthy. If they also got into significant trouble, whether it was health or whatever, I would offer my help. I'd tip very well, I'd give money to strangers if it was clear they needed it, ECT. For myself, I would buy probably 2 cars. Nothing super fancy, as I don't like drawing attention to myself, but probably something for the outdoors like a Jeep or a 4Runner, and then something maybe a Porsche Cayman. I'd buy a reasonably sized house in the city, and then I'd buy a big plot of land somewhere remote in the West and build a storage armory. This is where I'm probably going to lose a lot of people. I'd buy a lot of firearms and survival equipment, lots of medical supplies, storages of food and water. I'd make my off-the-grind house self-sustainable. I'd have a firing range and training courses, ECT. Then I would just focus on investing, creating a company that I felt benefited people, and enjoy the outdoors.